Hello, welcome back to my channel. I am Monae and you guys are watching Life is Monae. Today's video is going to be a May 2020 wrap up, and I'm going to talk about all the books that I read, and yeah, we're just going to dive right into it. Book that I read in May was actually a new release I got for Mother's Day, and I was able to pre-order it. So literally as soon as it came out, they shipped it to my house, and I could not be more excited. I got Collectible You Win by Elizabeth Acevedo. Hopefully I didn't just butcher her name. I really enjoyed this book. I read this book in one day. So the book is about 400 pages, but I was able to read it in one day because it's kind of written in like a poem kind of style, which I really enjoyed. I literally got some fruit and some snacks, and I laid in bed for the entire day, and I probably started this book at like 8 a.m. and I was done by like 4:30. I want to say like 3:45, 4:30, because I did like take a shower, I did eat, watch a little bit of TV, but I really enjoyed this book. So if you are not familiar with Collectible You Win, you are going to love it. It is a book about two sisters whose father recently died in an airplane crash, unfortunately, and the two sisters don't know anything about one another. Their father had an affair in his marriage, so he is married to one and lives in New York. His other wife ended up passing away and left a daughter in the Dominican Republic, who he flies back home once a year to see. The daughter in New York, her name is Yahira, and she actually was snooping around her father's things and figured out that he had an affair, but she had no idea that she had a sister, and she thought that she was keeping it from her mother, which her mother actually was keeping it from her. The whole family was kind of keeping it from her, and I really connected with her because she felt like she was holding in this big secret, and she was doing it to protect her father. This last year alive with her after she found out his secret drew a wedge between their relationship, and she was not able to really connect with her father. She didn't feel like she could be honest with her father, and I felt like that was really realistic because this is someone that she really looked up to, that she had a great relationship with, and her image of her family when she found out his secret was kind of shattered. And she held on to it for so long. He ended up passing away, and so she's trying to figure out how to deal with this so-called anger, and then it comes out that she has a sister. And so now it's like, I felt bad or guilty for being angry with a dead man, and I felt guilty and I felt the weight of his secrets because I was keeping them. And then to find out that, first of all, everybody knew, and second of all, there was a bigger secret than the one that I found out. And then the second sister, her name is Camino. She actually lives in the Dominican Republic. They live in a very poor Providence area. She doesn't have a lot of money. Her father sends money to her and her aunt, who takes care of her. And now Camino has lost her mother and her father, and she realizes that her father had a completely double life. She had no idea about her sister Yahira at all, and her father is not able to send money anymore. And she's a senior, and I believe she's getting ready to go off to college, and she would love to go to college in America, but she doesn't have citizenship, she doesn't have residency, she has no way or no money to get over there. Things are getting tough in her neighborhood, she's starting to get targeted, and so her life is pretty much just falling apart. And I really solely connected with her because I was a outside child, I feel like, with my father, where he actually had a wife and I have a sister, and we're relatively the same age, but we have different mothers. I feel like that really was an element that made me connect to her, because technically I kind of had a Camino standpoint where my father has this family without me, and unfortunately she can't figure out how she's going to continue to live her life without the finances and the paychecks that her father was sending her. And then Yahira's mother actually holds some type of resentment towards Camino, not just because she was born. The father married Camino's mother after Yahira's mother, and their mothers actually used to be friends. They grew up together. So Yahira's mother had a really hard time coming around to the idea of seeing his daughter. I think it was because she felt like if she was to see her daughter, or if she was to see the daughter that they created together, she would see her friend and her husband in this child. And so I feel like everybody has these traumatizing situations that they don't really know how to speak on, they don't know how to communicate with each other about, and everyone's afraid to be vulnerable. I feel like when he died, he left them all in kind of like this twilight zone, and they can't continue on with their lives. They can't all move forward unless they all come together and figure out what they're going to do with the shattered pieces that their father left behind. And I so much enjoyed this book. I cannot stress it enough. It is super relatable, super realistic. I feel like I connected with every single character in this book. The character development was right on pace. Nothing moved too fast, nothing moved too slow. And then I want to point out that when I went into this book, I thought that it was going to be about them getting to know each other, but you've experienced the death from both of their ends without them knowing anything about each other, and you experience the grief from both ends before they know anything about each other. I believe these sisters don't find out that one another exists until like literally more than halfway through the book. So it's more than just about their relationship. You're watching them deal with the grievances that they have against their father and some of the tensions that was drifting between their relationships. And they felt like both sisters, even not knowing about the other one, felt like their relationship with their father was divided. Like someone had half of his attention and they really could not explain why or how, but they just felt only half connected to their father. And so when they meet each other, it just all falls into place. And then of course they're not going to love each other right off the bat. So I feel like this book was just a beautiful story between two sisters who have to figure out how to navigate with each other without their father. And yeah, I cannot rave enough about this book. It is a 4.5 out of 5. The only reason I would say it's not a 5 out of 5 is because I wish it was a little bit longer. I wish it was more of me to indulge into. But if you're looking for a book that you can just sit in and kind of take yourself away from your world for 1 or 2 days, and something can pull on your heartstrings, clap when you land, is a banger. A banger. So I also read American Dirt, which I really enjoyed. So this book has a lot of controversy around it, which I understand. I do want to point out that I read this book from a fiction standpoint. So as a fictional story, I do believe that the story is compelling. I do believe that it is interesting, and I do believe that it's something that I could divulge into, something that intrigued me. But if you are reading this book, or you're thinking about reading this book, and you want a true, authentic Mexican story, I don't know if this is the book for you. I feel like she pulled inspirations from that storyline, but I can't say that it's authentic. And if you would love to really get a true, in-depth and realistic situation of what it's like to be traveling into the US as an immigrant, I will list some really good books that I have also read down below that are by Mexican authors that are telling the story from a authentic, realistic point of view. This book, again, as a fictional story, was a really good read. I can't say that the examples and the descriptions of Mexico is real or not real because I have never been to Mexico myself, and also I am not Mexican, so I do not speak Spanish, so I can't say, like, I can't complain about the depictions of the Mexican culture in this book. So I just wanted to put that out there as a disclaimer. Did enjoy it. Would not say that it's authentic, but if you're just looking for a good story to read, check it out. May was a really big reading month for me, and I did pick up Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare, and this is actually the first book that I've read of hers. And I know I'm super late because I'm jumping into the Mortal Instrument series or the Shadowhunter series literally there's like 17 books before, and I did purchase the first book, which is City of Bones, just so I can kind of go back and get back into it. Now, as someone who has read only the Chain of Gold without reading any of her prior work, I will say that it was a lot. It was a lot for me to follow, but it wasn't difficult. It wasn't hard. I feel like she did not spend a lot of time on the world building, and that's to be expected because she has literally 17 other books explaining this world, and I am someone who's not a really big fan of world building. If you know me and you've been watching my videos, I love stories that I can just jump into. Like, I don't need to be explained every single thing from the beginning. Just throw me into the world, throw me to the wolves, and I will figure it out as I go. I will pick up hints and I will remember things. I will keep tabs if I need to, but I am not big on a story that literally wastes 200 pages moving so slow just to build up the plot and build up the world building. It's a drag for me. So I was actually pretty content with the fact that she gave enough information for me to know what was going on in the book. Now, it is a pretty hefty book, but I feel like I read it as or I feel like it reads as a movie or a TV show, if that makes any sense. Literally the way that the scenes come together and the way that the scenes overlap or end and the way that the characters interact with each other, I got a really good visual in my mind, and it felt like I was reading a TV show, like just the subtitles of it, if that makes any sense, which I can't say is a negative or positive thing. That's just something that I wanted to hint towards the book. Now, I do know that this book follows the children of the characters from the Mortal Instruments, and so that's part of the reason why I wanted to go back and read them, because she hints to all of these glorious characters that have all these amazing backgrounds and stories, and they're all legendary, and I'm like, I have no idea who you are. You just walk into this room and everybody's like gasping and I can't believe he's here, I can't believe she's here, and she's so iconic, and I'm like, I have no idea who that is. So I am going to go back and I will be reading the Mortal Instruments, and I'm going to try to fill in the gap between book 1 and like book 24. Pray for me. Moving right along, the next book that I read was Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. There is so much to discuss about this book. It's crazy. So Ninth House follows a character by the name of Alex Stern. This book is so much to like digest. Like, I should have buddy read it. I should have read it in a book club, or I should have buddy read it with somebody, because there is so much in this book that needs to be discussed that, oh my god, it would take literally a separate video by itself. It follows the story of Alex Stern, who is a girl who can see ghosts, and she has very traumatic experiences around her ability to see ghosts and interact with them. And she has kind of led a wayward life due to a traumatic experience that she had with a ghost, and it has really affected her, because you can't really speak about an interaction that you had with a non-living thing, and it is one of those interactions that will scar any person if they experience it with a person that was alive and a person that was dead. And when you go through a situation like this with a person who's even alive, you typically go to therapy to get over it. And so now she's done this, or she's experienced this situation with a ghost, and what can you tell your therapist? And so I feel like it really played a part and shaped her into her later lives, because she gets caught up in the streets because she can't really communicate with her mom. Her mom gets desperate. She doesn't know what to do. She sends her to boot camp. She puts her on a lot of rules and restrictions and grounds her, and it's just, her mom is so loving and so caring and so concerned about Alex Stern, but she really just, what can you say? I see ghosts, and ghosts haunt me, and ghosts traumatize me, and ghosts have taken advantage of me. And one of the things that I love about this book, first of all, the world building is amazing. There's so many aspects in this book. So Alex joins a group called Lethe, and Lethe is ordained as these kind of keepers of the balance between the houses of the Veil, which deal with occult magic, and they practice different type of magical surgical experiments on living people, and they explore a kind of world of dark magic. And what I like about the occult things in this book is that there are rules and there are consequences and there's a balance, and so it's hard to kind of grasp at first, but I think Leigh Bardugo does a good job of explaining it and then putting it into example in the book, so you really get to see how the occult magic works, how they get their power, how things balance out. And also, because of the occult magic that they do, they can draw ghosts or dead things towards them, because that's just what they go for. They kind of tend to cling to anything that contains life. And so as a part of Lethe, it's her job to make sure that the ghosts don't break over this kind of like dimension and step into their world. Now Alex Stern, I will say, as a character, I do really like. I like her wittiness. I like how she is so vulnerable and so sensitive and so broken in so many places, but she would never display that unless she absolutely had to. And then I admire that she musters strength from literally nothing. Like, when the world doesn't believe her, the world doesn't care about her, she's a castaway, she doesn't belong, she's an outsider, nobody expects her to be the hero, nobody's looking for her to save the day, and she doesn't even care about saving the day. She doesn't even really want to save the day, but there's something literally drawing her and pulling her toward this situation, and she just can't help but get involved. one of the things that I love about this book is that it's told from the perspective of Alex as well as this character named Darlington, and Darlington's missing in the whole book, but you get stories from his point of view and you really get to know him, and you're wondering like what happened to Darlington, where did he go, and what happened between Darlington and Alex. And then you're like, okay, I think something bad has happened to Darlington, and who did it? And at one point even Alex becomes a possible suspect to the disappearance of Darlington, and I was so, I don't know, like a bittersweet situation, because Darlington is not actually in this book besides the past recollections of his memory. So I've grown connected to him. I've grown to love him. I love his character. I love everything about him, and I'm concerned for him. And then even in the end, we don't see Darlington. And book number 2 is going to be all about how Alex goes to figure out where he is and possibly drag him back from the pits of hell. And I could not be more excited. I feel like Leigh Bardugo gave the right amount of events, the right amount of deaths, the right amount of everything in this book. There were so many page turners where I was like, I did not expect that was gonna happen. Like, no idea that was gonna happen at all, and I really enjoyed it. And I feel like she gave us a mouthful without overfeeding us. There's so much in this book to dwell on and to talk about, and so much to digest, and that, like I said earlier, it would take a while to get through. And I feel like there's still so many things that could happen in this book. I still want to know so much about the actual houses itself, because we're experiencing it from Lethe, who are kind of like the guardians of the veil, or the guardians of these houses, to make sure that they stay in line. But I've read about some interesting characters that actually belong to the houses themselves, and I would love to go in and explore those houses and characters. And I feel like there's so much in this world that can happen, and it's a book with magic that is so relatable to our world today. And the idea of occult magic or dark magic or witchcraft is not something far-fetched. It's not something that we can't relate to, because it does occur. It does occur in our society. So I feel like this book is one that you can really truly connect with, and I could not be more excited for book number 2. I will put out a disclaimer that there are sexual assault situations that happen in this book, a lot of women degrading graphic situations that do occur. So if that's a trigger warning for you, I would like for you to know that going into this book. But Leigh Bardugo does not in any way glorify it, and it's basically a stain that these women learn to wear with honor. These women learn to go about their lives with this stain of society and figure out how to maneuver and figure out who they are and what they want to be, and they're not going to be held down by this social stigma or social standard, and they're not going to let anybody take this power away from them. And it's traumatizing and it's empowering at the same time, and I really did enjoy this book. Now, the next book that I read was A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. This book, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know where to begin. Let me get my notepad. So there was so much in this book that I loved and so much that I hated, and I was conflicted, and I went back and forth, and I took notes. So first of all, this book is from President Snow's point of view, 60 years, I believe 64 years before we meet Katniss Everdeen. And Snow is 18 years old, and he is a mentor in the games about a decade after the war. So Snow has to mentor a girl from District 12 by the name of Lucy Gray. And can I just say that I loved the character of Lucy Gray. She was so far from a Katniss Everdeen knockoff. I actually loved her character more than I loved Katniss. Yeah, I really enjoyed Lucy's character. She was fun and so surreal. Like, she was so eccentric as a character that I loved her. She can actually sing. She is not really from District 12. She kind of just roams the districts as a performer, her and her family. And when the war broke out, she just happened to be in District 12, and so she got stuck there, and now she is in the Hunger Games. Now she is the one that is less likely to win in the Hunger Games. Like, she has about equal chances as Peter did in the Hunger Games, probably even less. Like, pretty much everybody knows that this girl is gonna die, and she ends up winning, of course. But this book is about so much more. It's mostly centered around Snow. Now let's talk about President Snow. This is not a redemption book for him. If you're reading, or if you're thinking about reading this, or you pick it up and you think, oh, Suzanne's gonna try to make him seem like he used to be a good character and then he kind of fell to the wayward side, or something traumatizing happened to him and now he's just this evil person that we meet later on. Like, no. Snow is crooked and evil literally from the beginning. His family has fallen from their stature of where they were before. They are poor, they are broke, and he is trying to keep up this facade that they are not. And his whole future is riding on these Hunger Games. And I really like that Suzanne did not center this book around any one event. It wasn't centered around his relationship with Lucy. It wasn't centered around her Hunger Games. It wasn't centered around his mentorship. In fact, so many things occur in this book that I did not expect. Snow, minor spoiler, actually used to be a peacekeeper, which I found out in this book was not a good job. It was not a good thing. If you are someone who is outcasted from the capital, or you owe the capital a debt that needs to be repaid, they typically make you a peacekeeper. So it's not something that he wanted to do. He definitely wanted a straight route to a political career, and he gets distracted and he gets caught up in some things that send him to, he actually goes to District 12 and he has to serve as a peacekeeper. And one of the things that I felt real while reading this book is I was kind of like disgusted that Snow is never not conniving a plan. He is never not manipulating. He is never not angling a situation, trying to figure out how he can get the upper end. And he comes across as the most sincere, dedicated, honest person to most of the people in this book. There aren't a lot of people in this book besides maybe one or two characters that know his true colors. But everyone else in this book thinks that President Snow is the neighborhood or community figure. He's someone that they can all look up to and they can all rely on and depend on. And I'm like, he is taking advantage of all of you. Like, he doesn't like you or you or you. One of the people in this book, which is Sejanus, which is another character that I did love. Let's just say that I loved all the characters outside of President Snow. Even Dean Highbottom, in the end, when I got to know a little bit more about him towards the end of the book, I did end up liking him. But Snow I did not enjoy. But Sejanus actually dies in this book, and he died thinking that President Snow was his deepest, truest friend, almost like a brother. And that is just not true. And it was so sad and so heartbreaking. And even Lucy experiences a situation with President Snow where she realizes that he is not this person that she thought he was. And he basically betrays and crosses everybody in this book. Now, one of the things I will say is that the book was slower in the beginning. Almost some parts could have been taken out because it was almost kind of boring. And besides the fact that we didn't really learn anything new about President Snow other than like he was a peacekeeper and he was poor, and he actually had a really good relationship with his cousin Tigress. And they don't really explain in this book how they go from the relationship that they have as almost brother and sister to how they were by the end of Catching Fire, where they were basically on odds with each other. So I would really like to know what happened between Tigress and Snow. But besides the boring parts of this book, and besides the relationship or the characteristic developments of Snow that we really don't get to see because he's not anything different than we expected him to be, is I will say I really enjoyed the political aspect of this book. I enjoyed getting to know the characters and the role of Panem post-war. They actually don't like the Hunger Games. Like, they're basically forced to being watched them, and people are vocal about it. Nobody wants to watch these kids kill each other. And it is so different from what we see with Katniss Everdeen, where everybody seems to be out for blood. And you get to know, and like you get to see in the Catching Fire and Mockingjay that the people in the districts really aren't a fan of the games. But at this point in time, literally nobody is a fan of the games, and they're trying to figure out how to get people more engaged and how to get people more enticed into the games. And I really enjoyed the world building of Panem and getting to see how different it was and how almost realistic you would expect it to be, because post-war we're having this event and tournament where people are killing each other, and they're fed up with war. They're fed up with starving and being poor and killings and murderings. And now you want us to watch this annual killing of our children. And nobody was excited to see it. And so I think that there's going to be a book 2. The way that she wrote it and set it up, we don't even know what happened to Lucy Gray. I feel like there's definitely going to be a book number 2. And so I'm hoping to get more insight into how we go from this Panem, where they're almost like I would expect us to be in our modern world, to the blood hungry people that they were, that we see later on with Katniss Everdeen. And so, like I said, I didn't enjoy this book just because we got to see Snow's point of view. If you're going to read this, don't be excited about that part. Be excited about all the other characters that come into this book and the world development of this book. Strange the Dreamer. 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5. This book was so magical and so whimsical, and it was so amazing. Oh my god, I'm sorry this video is long, but I cannot shorten my love for this book. Laszlo. I love him. I love him. He is this character that just makes you want to dream. Like, he makes being able to dream and have this imagination, this talent that I'm jealous of. Almost like if I was to see somebody sing or dance or draw or paint, like, dang, I really wish I could paint like that, or I wish I could sing as good as her. I wish that I could dream like Laszlo Strange, because his dreams are so amazing. And I don't want to give too many spoilers away from this book. If you have been watching my channel for a bit and you like some of the books that I like and rave about, then you are going to love this book. So good. I do want to point out that I think Lani Taylor did such a good job with Laszlo's character, as well as the character of all the kids in the tower. I love the little evil one. I love Sarai. I just love all the characters, and I connected with every single one of them, even Minya. And I understood her anger and her hatred for people. And I could see how this is a world where so much has happened between two groups of people, and so much trauma has occurred that you want this world peace kind of thing, but so many people have been hurt, and they are avidly and vividly remembering this. It's not like here's a war that happened hundreds of years ago with our ancestors, our parents and our grandparents, and they have died and we're their descendants and we have to figure out a way to come together. But there are so many characters in this book that were present for the last war. They fought in the last war, they bled in the last war, and they are not ready to let go of some of the things that happened to them for fear that it will happen again. So Laszlo, this perfect character, is stuck in between a world that will get a lot worse before it gets better. And I love that Lani Taylor did not make Laszlo your average hero type character. I was so in love with the plot of this book that when Laszlo came into himself and like the big reveal, I didn't even expect it. I mean, now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm like, I should have known that that was coming, but I was so caught up in the story that I enjoyed it in the moment. I was not thinking about what was going to happen in the future. Every single scene that we follow Laszlo in and that we follow all of the other characters in, I was in that scene. I was not in a rush to get to the end of the book. I was not in a rush to figure out what happened. I didn't want to jump forward. I enjoyed every roller coaster, hill, and bump that Lani took me through. And this book is literally amazing. And I feel like I love this book almost as much as I love A Court of Mist and Fury. This and A Court of Mist and Fury, like, I wouldn't be able to decide. Like, such a good book. The last book that I read in the month of May is 6 of Crows, and I loved it. I was on a Lee Bardugo roll this month, and I really enjoyed it. Loved Cass and Wylan in this book, and Inej and Nina and Matthias, and yeah, I think I loved everybody. I appreciate what Lani and Lee Bardugo did in these books, which is to make our iconic hero characters outside of the box and somebody you would never expect to be this phenomenal character or do these amazing phenomenal things, and they have these disabilities. People in society look down on them, and that is their era, and that is where they mess up. In 6 of Crows, we follow these groups of outcast gang members who attempt this impossible heist to stop a drug from going around, and this drug really only works with these Grisha members who possess like a magical power. Each of them are able to do different magical abilities, and they're grouped together by kind of, I guess you can call them clans or groups, and this drug gives their powers this enlightened or heightened level, and they're able to do things that they would not be able to do even on their regular just level of power. And one of the things that I liked about this book is that the people in power that have these magical abilities are actually slaves. Like, I love a book like that where the people that you expect to rule the world and be the almost powerful are actually just, they're lower than regular people. I like that twist. And I am reading Cricket Kingdom right now, and I have literally probably about 100 pages left in this book, and I love Cricket Kingdom more than I love the first one. Now, I don't want to give away too much with this book, but let's just say that things don't go as planned in the first book, Six of Crows. This gang is not about to tuck their tail between their legs and just take their losses. They're back with a vengeance, and more stuff goes haywire, more stuff goes wrong. Relentless. They are resilient, and they will get what is owed to them. 5 out of 5 for both books. I absolutely loved them. Anyways, I know this video was a little lengthy, but I read a lot of books in May. I don't know what to tell you. June is a great reading month as well. My birthday is in June. It is Pride Month in June, and we are off of quarantine. I could not be more excited. Thanks for stopping by my channel. I will see you guys next time. Bye.